We got a nationally televised Sun Belt East Showdown tonight. It's JMU hosting Coastal Carolina. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, good show for you today. We will talk about this JMU Coastal Carolina matchup. We'll grade the new coaches, see how we have previous head coaches maybe doing better than new first-time head coaches, and a first-time head coach doing very well. Thank you. And these SI Now Sun Belt rankings. This is mostly a positive. I know people somehow seem the negative, but we try to lift everybody up. There is some constructive criticism, of course, but those Sun Belt rankings are ridiculous. We'll go over them. All right, let's talk about this matchup. It is on ESPN U tonight. ESPN 2 tonight. Sorry about that. Matt Barry is there. We'll have the call with Dan Mullen, right? James Madison, 4-1, 0-1 in the Sun Belt. They're taking on Coastal Carolina, 4-1, 1-0 in the Sun Belt. Of course, James Madison losing to ULM last week. I think this is a big test for both teams. For James Madison to bounce back. Tough ball game either way. Even if they had somehow won that game, they didn't play particularly well in it, and I think a lot of that has to do with ULM. But it's always easier to make the adjustments after you win. I understand that, but they certainly didn't play up to what they had been playing the last few weeks. So see if they can bounce back. You don't want to lose the same game twice. For Coastal Carolina, this ball game is a little bit about justification because we don't know how good this team is just yet, right? Jacksonville State has turned things around, but that was a blowout win to begin with. Then they beat William and Mary. Then they beat Temple. They lose to Virginia, and they beat Old Dominion. All right, so let's figure that out. All right, Temple is 1-5 on the season. They haven't done diddly poo. William and Mary's a different level, and Jacksonville State is now 2-3, 2 wins in their last 2 ball games, one against Southern Miss and one against Kennesaw State. So I don't think they have beaten anybody. I guess we could look at William and Mary. They have beaten anybody with a winning record just yet, and so we don't know how good or bad Coastal Carolina is just yet. Let's see what William and Mary is. It's a different level. They're 4-2. They're in the CAA. So again, that's FCS, right? So that's FCS. But nonetheless, they do have a winning record. They're 4-2. It's a level below that. So we don't know how good or bad that Coastal Carolina is. So this one game is going to tell us a lot. And so we'll see what happens. They did a good job last week getting down to ODU and fighting back, right? Down 17-7, scored 28 straight points, then hung on for the victory. And we'll see what they're going to do against James Madison. So, Coastal Carolina, let's see what their defense is, because that doesn't sound like the best of all defenses so far this year for Coastal Carolina. Let's see here. They gave up 27 points to Jacksonville State, but they had 55. They gave 21 to William and Mary, 20 to Temple, 43 to Virginia, and 37 to Old Dominion. So I don't know if I particularly like this ball game in terms of betting JMU by 10. I do like the over-under at 60.5. If Coastal Carolina can, get something going, because I don't think they have, if they can get something going offensively, because I don't think they have much of a defense thus far. James Madison looking to bounce back. Alonzo Barnett III looking to have a better performance than he did last week. They did kick a few field goals, but he was under pressure all game. And certainly from the second possession on. That was a lot of ULM. I had some comments and appreciate all the comments. We're getting more and more comments. So I do appreciate that and do appreciate everyone's point of view. I may disagree with it, but hopefully I will be respectful in my disagreement with you. Someone said that it was more JMU lost it than, ULM won it, and I disagree with that. You can't say, well, JMU had a fumble that turned into a touchdown. Yeah, but they only had the ball because ULM fumbled a punt return, right? Or fumbled a muffed punt, as the case may be. I would give, and the odds makers do. I think this has gone up, right? For Wednesday's edition, it was 9.5. It's now 10. JMU is up to a 10-point spread. Again, the over-under is 60.5. It is in Harrisonburg. It is on national TV. It is 7:30 p.m. Tonight, and it should be a whale of a ball game. This is a chance for, again, James Madison to, get back on the winning ways, and this is for Coastal Carolina to see if they are as good as their record indicates, right? We hear that all the time, especially in the pros. Bill Parcells, your record, it says what you are, right? But if you haven't beaten anybody yet that others would consider quality opponents, then we don't know where you stand, all right? So as disappointing as a close loss would be, that would be, say, Coastal Carolina covers, then maybe we find out they're pretty good. If, James Madison puts up a 50 spot against them and they lose by double digits, then we'll come to a different conclusion. I do think JMU is going to win the ball game, and I'm starting to talk myself into the 10 points. I'm looking at this has got 45, 34 written all over it. It does. It's going to be a packed house. Of course, James Madison is going to say, we need, got to finish off the other half of the stadium, keep that stadium full. And let's not go crazy. Also, see the Cajuns are averaging the most they've averaged since 2016 in 2/3 of a stadium. What is going on, right? And they're on the hot side of the stadium. They're out of the shade. They're in the sun. It's crazy. Anyway, I think it'll be a whale of a ball game. And again, national TV, right? It's again Matt Berry, Dan Mullen, who doesn't have, and maybe I'm just not used to it, doesn't have a distinguished accent or voice. I'm wondering who I'm listening to. And Harry Lyles should be on the sidelines. Harry was the one who slid down the hill at App State, so he certainly gets into it. And it's more great exposure for the Sun Belt. This is a chance for JMU to bounce back. I would think that their playoff hopes have dissipated, but one never knows. But it's certainly a chance to get back in the map nationally. Bouncing back from a loss. Again, winning on the road is hard. That's why we're still not sure on why Marshall is favored at Georgia Southern, although that has gone down a point from 2.5 to 1.5. Winning on the road is hard, so that's explainable. And if you come back and if you have a good performance on national TV, people will say, A, what happened against Monroe, and B, they'll be like, okay, it happens type of deal. So I think JMU wins this ball game. And again, it's got 45-34 written all over it. I do like that over. I would be shocked if both teams don't score more than 30 points. And that's what they have to do to get the over. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk about the new coaches. There are 5 new coaches in the Sun Belt, some coaching or some being a head coach for the first time, and some continuing their career and one getting a second chance. All right, we will do that right after I tell you about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. And you get those great seat views, those panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy, and you get that lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 100%, 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I don't have a graphic for this. I probably should learn how to do that a little bit better. But let me see if I can bring up my pages. Okay, so we're going to do this from, I guess, the bottom up right now. All right, and some of it is not, most of it is incomplete. Let's be honest with you. All these grades should be incomplete. But we are taking into consideration the situation that they were in, what they've inherited, and how they've done. All right, we'll do that. All right. The top one is not difficult. And now the bottom one's not difficult either. All right. But a tough situation. Obviously, Jared Parker with Troy is in a tough spot. All right. Lots of turnover. Chris Lewis ends up, and thank goodness is healthy now, but he ends up having to not play this year and help out coaching. Lots of loss on the defense. You know, it's a big turnover spot. So someone else has done better in the same spot, but and he's coming in when the last guy, John Summerall, had won 2 Sun Belt championships. So that's a little bit disappointing. And it didn't take long for the crowds to not show up. That Texas State ball game was not pretty, also on national TV. So that is disappointing. So Jared Parker, obviously, unfortunately, it's got to be a D for right now, all right? Or incomplete, you could say that, all right? But that does not look like it's heading in the right direction. South Alabama's Major Applewhite, all right? It's just a really up and down season so far, all right? We're going to take that Ohio game out because there was no Gio Lopez, but, mistake after mistake in that North Texas ball game. And then, they just come out with 87 points against Northwestern State. They go into App and score a bunch of points there. They're rocking and rolling. They're high flying. They have to play LSU, so that's a different, animal, so to speak. Wasn't awful, but also didn't finish off a couple of drives that they could have gotten points on. And then I don't know what we saw against Arkansas State. Not to take anything away from Arkansas State, but when you say that, you're taking something away from Arkansas State. I don't understand what the game plan was, either offensively or defensively, for South Alabama. They didn't look like Arkansas State could stop the run. Did a couple of times, but they didn't run it enough for me. And then the soft defense at the end allowed the game-winning field goal. When if you were more aggressive and they went over your head and they completed a big pass for a touchdown, all right, now you get the ball back. But that's not the way it went. They have a chance to turn things around as well. We will see. It has just been a roller coaster of a ride for Major Applewhite. We'll give him a C. We'll do that with a C. It's been, if it's roller coaster, it's average, right? It's been about average. Dell McGee, Georgia State, big win over Vandy, which looks a lot bigger now, right? If Paul Feinbaum can get the name of the school right, that's a heck of a win. Didn't play very well against Georgia Southern, that's for sure. They do stumble a little bit to go 2-3 in that 5-game Atlanta homestand, if you will. He's got the recruiting going right. He's doing a good job. We'll see what they can do moving forward in the Sun Belt. Again, the win over Vandy is only going to take you so far. For Georgia State's point of view, that Georgia Southern game probably should have been a little bit closer. That's the only thing you're kind of disappointed about. Didn't play very well against Georgia Southern. Losing is one thing. Not playing well is another. So we'll see what happens there. But so far, Dell McGee, including the recruiting, he's getting a B. All right. Bob Chesney, JMU. Hey, a lot of turnover there as well. A lot of guys, as JMU fans know, are now on that undefeated Indiana team. And Kurt Signetti could very well be on the way to being National Coach of the Year. And so a lot of turnover, coaching, players. And how about Bob Chesney kind of rehabbing Alonzo Barnett III? All right. A kid who I think got stage fright That's kind of what was told to me, when he started last year for JMU, only to see Jordan McLeod come in there and win Sun Belt Player of the Year. And now Alonzo Barnett III has got to be mentioned in, the same breath as, what are we looking at? Gio Lopez. And I don't know if there's a running back. I was going to have somebody else, not Joey Aguilar, that's for sure. There was somebody else who I was thinking may be in that. Or it could be Jordan McLeod. Get back to Jordan McLeod. So you got to give Bob Chesney a big grade, A, B plus A. He's done a really good job there. I'm not sure if there was a coaching issue last week against ULM. Just think ULM played better. I didn't like the offensive play calls at the end of the ball game, but neither here nor there. It wasn't like they were sitting on the 40. They were sitting inside the 10, if not, certainly inside the 20, if not inside the 10. So they had a long way to go, but a 5-yard out ain't going to cut it. So I'm not sure if that's on Chesney instead of the offensive coordinator, but I think Bob Chesney's done a really good job. And obviously, another guy who is certainly going to be up for National Coach of the Year, Bryant Vincent at ULM. I mean, A++. ULM had a win total of 1.5. They beat that the second week of the year when they beat UAB after they beat Jackson State. They are 4-1. They should be, again, don't overlook Southern Miss. They should be 5-1 in the Sun Belt. Or I'm sorry, 5-1 overall and 3-0 in the Sun Belt. And halfway during the season, they are legit Sun Belt contenders. No doubt about it. All right. Bryant Vincent has a huge home run hire thus far. All right. And we know everything can change with injuries and whatever the case may be. A bad bounce, a bad call, something doesn't go your way. But Bryant Vincent at ULM has done a phenomenal job thus far for the Warhawks. And again, he's got Texas State and he's got the Cajuns at home. Watch out. All right. So again, some of these are incomplete. Well, all of them are technically incomplete because it's been half a season. But so far, Bryant Vincent has done a great job. So has Bob Chesney. Dell McGee has Georgia State heading in the right direction. Would like to see a little better play on the field. Been up and down for Major Applewhite and South Alabama. And Jared Parker's been in a tough spot. That's all we can say about that. Breaking in a bunch of new players, and especially, the quarterback. Bringing a new one there. All right, we'll take a timeout. Someone posted Sun Belt rankings. They haven't watched the Sun Belt game this year. Again, I am trying to be as positive as I can. And so when the criticism comes from these rankings, it's not meant to be for the teams. It's meant to be the people who did the rankings because these are ridiculous. We'll do that when I come back after I tell you about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. And so far, I'm going with JMU and Coastal Carolina over 60.5. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. And so, we get the Sunbelt Syndicate does this. I think Funbelt Sports does this. They do Sunbelt rankings. I guess I probably should, but I don't. And we'll let other people do that, and then I will I will comment on them. All right. So Jeremy Harper from Funbelt Podcast. And he posted this. He tweeted it out. Arkansas State sits atop the Sunbelt, the SI Now Sunbelt Power Rankings. All right. And obviously he's the Arkansas State dude. So he's very happy about that. All right. These rankings are ludicrous by any stretch of the imagination. All right. Are you ready for this? Arkansas State's 1. James Madison 2. Texas State is 3. 2 and 3 aren't bad. All right. South Alabama 4. South Alabama 4. Marshall's 5. Monroe is 6. The Cajuns are 7. Coastal Carolina is 8. App State is 9. Old Dominion 10. Troy is 11. They're ahead of Georgia Southern. Southern Miss 13. Georgia State is 14. You know, with the win over Vandy. So let's go down this list here. All right. So obviously Arkansas State is ranked a little bit high. They've had 3 wins and move on. And I'm very good at talking out of both sides of my mouth. And I'm all about winning and moving on. But they haven't had an impressive win yet. They've had 3 very nice wins because all 3 of those could have been losses. They did get blown out by Michigan and Iowa State. It is what it is. And I like the direction Arkansas State's going in. They certainly have a big matchup with Texas State this weekend, but settle down. The Red Wolves, even if they had somehow, well, they did win that ball game, but if they lost it, they still didn't play all that well. They played well enough to win. They did. They beat South Alabama. All right. Arkansas State's not the best team in the Sun Belt. All right. James Madison still might be. That doesn't mean they're ranked number 2 after you lose to ULM. All right. Not to mention James Madison is 2. ULM is 6. I mean, ULM just beat James Madison. Texas State is 3. And that is coming. Is that off the loss? That's off the win over Troy. But then they the week before they lost to Sam Houston. I don't think that's very impressive. Marshall is 5. I don't know about that. I mean, maybe Marshall is where they should be. All right. Maybe I'll do this off the top of my head. Monroe is probably too low, but the Cajuns are 7. The Cajuns are 7. They have one, I don't know about bad loss, but certainly disappointing loss to a good Tulane team at home. They go on the road. They beat Wake. They go on the road and beat Southern Miss. Southern Miss ain't all that great, but there's been times that Southern Miss hasn't been all that great, and the Cajuns can't beat them. Coastal Carolina is 8. App State is 9. That's probably a little bit too high for App. Old Dominion is 10. I don't know how Georgia Southern is behind Troy, and I don't know how Georgia State is behind Southern Miss. All right, so I would have the Cajuns 1, and we're just doing this based on what we've seen so far. All right, not what we think is going to be, what we've seen so far. All right, so I'd have the Cajuns. I probably should type this up. I would have the Cajuns 1. I don't mind James Madison 2 and Texas State 3. Although I guess I just made fun of Monroe. We'll put Monroe 4. All right. I think overall James Madison is probably better, but they did lose to Monroe. I would put Monroe number 4. And then I'd probably put, I guess, Marshall number 5. All right. And then you could put, and then that Georgia Southern, I don't know where Georgia Southern is 12. And we're going to get that ball game, right? So after Marshall, that's probably where I would have Georgia Southern 6 and Coastal Carolina 7. Yeah, I got to write these down, unfortunately. All right. What do we, no, I guess, so Arkansas State's got to be in there somewhere. So we would put Arkansas State. So do Cajuns, James Madison, Texas State, Monroe, and then I would do Arkansas State 5, put Marshall 6, Georgia Southern 7. Then I'd put Coastal Carolina 8. Then South Alabama 9. I'm missing one. South Alabama's 9. And then I'd go because I'd have, oh, and then I'd have Georgia. There it is. Georgia State would be 10. Then I would do, and then you have the bottom of it. Then you'd have, like Troy is 14, Southern Miss is 13, and Old Dominion is 12, and then App State is 11. No, I think I got that right. Yeah, that's why you need to make a graphic. So let's see if I can do that off the top of my head. I'd have the Cajuns 1, James Madison 2, Texas State 3, Monroe 4, Arkansas State 5. Georgia Southern 6. Marshall 7. I have Coastal Carolina 8. South Alabama 9. Georgia State 10. App State 11. Old Dominion 12. Southern Miss 13 and Troy 14. And there you go. That's what I would have. These guys were way off. Even if you want to argue with me a couple of spots, I don't think there's too much to argue there. No, that's why we need to do graphics. All right. So we eventually got that right. See if we can, and we'll have to see if we can make that a short, if that was a minute or not, because that's the rankings. That's what the rankings should be, at least for now. That may change. And again, talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I made fun of them having James Madison 2 and ULM 6, and yet I had James Madison 2 and ULM 4. You could flip those two, and that wouldn't be the worst case. You could have ULM 2, James Madison 3, Texas State 4. As of right now, can't argue with that. You couldn't argue with that. All right, we are on our way to 1,550 subscribers. Unbelievable. We're I don't know. We got a little bit of momentum. Maybe the shorts and the reels are helping us out. Still don't understand why Marshall is favored against Georgia Southern. We'll see. We'll see what it is come Thursday for Friday's show. And we'll see what it is come game time. It may be, you maybe should have taken Georgia Southern when they were 2.5 point underdogs. But really appreciate it. We're continuing to grow. And again, the goal is still 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be amazing. We have just over 2.5 months, and we're not that far away from talking about Sunbelt basketball. All right. Again, thanks so much. Everybody have a great Thursday, and we will talk to you again on Friday. You've been watching and listening to a Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.